Video. Thank you all for watching. I greatly appreciate it. So I haven't been doing a whole lot of Ukraine updates lately. Um, Mostly the front has been stable, stagnant. It's almost kind of like a World War One, all quiet on the Western Front. Kind of, I don't know. It's just there's not a whole lot that's been going on lately, but I've been keeping up with it. We'll close that out. So the front line has stabilized, but most of the fighting has been around the city of Avdiivka, which is right here. So the last major battle that a lot of people were familiar with, Bakhmut, the Russian forces captured that. I think that was 22, 23 early in 2023. But that was a really big battle. Avdiivka is another one, as you can see. If my, there we go, map would stop glitching out. As you can see, Avdiivka is surrounded on three sides. Essentially, from the reports that I've seen, most of the Ukrainian troops have tried to pull back to, I think it's Severne is the correct pronunciation. But yeah, the situation's not good for the Ukrainians in Avdiivka. I've seen different pictures of Russians in the city. I don't think Deep State has updated it, but as far as I know, Avdiivka has mostly fallen to Russian forces. If just from this map update alone, it's not looking good. If you're surrounded on three sides and your only, escape route is that narrow, like, it's not looking good. And to be honest, if I were the Ukrainians, I probably would, at this point, you definitely have to pull back to more defensible positions, probably towards Severne, but honestly probably towards this ridge line back here towards Semenivka and I don't know how to pronounce that, Berdishi, Stepove. There's been battles there, but for all intents and purposes, it looks like Avdiivka has fallen. It was honestly only a matter of time. I think the Ukrainians were holding out for as long as they could, but I think the Russians have been pouring all their reserves into Avdiivka because they want it so badly. Strategically, does it look like too much of a strategic success? Bakhmut, the reason why there was a lot of things with Bakhmut, there was a lot of roads network going into it, but with Avdiivka down here, there's not a whole lot of, there's a handful of roads, but mostly I think the Russians are trying to get Putin a propaganda win directly before the upcoming election in March, which, we really shouldn't call the Russian election an actual election because it's rigged. We already know that Putin's going to win it. But I think Putin needs to sell to the Russian people, look what I'm doing, captured Avdiivka. And essentially, at this point, if there's any Ukrainians in Avdiivka, you definitely need to pull back. I'd honestly pull back. This is me being an armchair general, but pull back further than Severne towards this ridge line over here, towards Umansk, Semenivka, and Berdishi. Fall back to this position because, Avdiivka is untenable. Severne, the Russians have been making progress there. Personally, I would fall back to a defensive position towards Alexandropol, Keramik. Oh, I'm gonna butcher this name. Novobakhmutivka, Berdishi, Semenivka, even towards Umansk. I'd probably pull the defensive line back this way because even if you have troops in Stepove and even this area, yeah, the Russians have been making advances here. I try and bring back my defensive line further. So looks like Deep State hasn't updated, but I've seen pictures on, I think it was Telegram I saw it, Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, but mostly the Russians have taken Avdiivka. Definitely the Ukrainians need to pull back from there, because even if you zoom out just from this alone, it's not looking great. Have a defensive line, in my opinion, about right here. Stabilize your line, pull back, save lives. That's what you're focused on. You held out in Avdiivka for as long as you could. That was a success, trying to hold back the Russian onslaught, but the Ukrainians in this area of the front are just outnumbered. The Russians have been pouring in their reserves, so that's mostly what's been going on. I've heard the Ukrainians sunk another Russian landing ship. So I don't know where in the Black Sea that was. Probably somewhere over here, but I haven't been keeping up too much with that. There's been not movement in this part of the line. There was this offensive that stalled and then ultimately kind of failed. I mean, I don't think it was too much of a complete failure. I think there was limited success, but I think it was overhyped in the media. But most of the fighting has been going right in here, this Lysychansk towards Donetsk axis, with most of the fighting around Avdiivka. Yeah, it looks like it has fallen to Russian forces. So that's mostly what's been going on. I was surprised Avdiivka has lasted as long as it has in Ukrainian hands, but I think it's definitely smart for Ukrainians to pull back their forces, strategic retreat, and save as many lives as you can, pull out as many wounded as you can, and more or less Avdiivka has now entered Russian hands. So with that, that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Deuces.